modern web development in ServiceNow. It's a pretty new experience. So this is great. I mean, it's quite an audience, almost 500 people. Not all of those people on this session, of course, but this is great. So my name is Andrew Pischulin. I'm a ServiceNow principal architect. I've been doing ServiceNow for the last probably like 15 years. And today I want to talk about modern web development, right? So I think the first time I ever talked about modern web development in ServiceNow was about like 7 years ago. And there is a good chance if you just Google modern web development, not modern web development in ServiceNow, or just how to do React.js in ServiceNow, you'll find my articles. So today I want to give you just a kind of like a crash course, 30 minutes course. It's not a deep technical dive, so it's pretty easy session. So you can easily digest all of the development concepts. But this is pretty cool. And if we have time at the very end, I'll show you some really interesting demos, what you can do in ServiceNow. Okay, let's do this. Now, I want to start with the question. This is a great question. Why? Why do we care about modern web development in ServiceNow? Because, I mean, ServiceNow is a great platform, amazing cloud automation platform. We can do lots of stuff. We can write code. Why do we care about some external things, right? And actually, I asked that question to myself a while ago, right? And I'm a developer. I'm an architect. And the answer was quite simple. So ServiceNow, great platform, but from the software development perspective, the ServiceNow ecosystem is kind of like small. It's pretty small, relatively small comparing to outside software development world. There are so many different programming languages, platform, and all that stuff. So again, ServiceNow is small. It's a great ecosystem. You can deliver lots of value, but it's kind of small. And at some point in your career, you will find out that you want to grow. You want to expand. You would want to go beyond ServiceNow capabilities. That's one thing. Another thing is that for your customers, for your clients, when you build something, you will realize that, okay, I want to do something bigger, something more advanced that just ServiceNow can offer out of the box. And this is exactly where modern web development technologies come into the picture, right? With modern web development tools, modern frameworks like React, Angular, Svelte, Vue, you can significantly expand ServiceNow ecosystem. You still stay inside of kind of like in ServiceNow. You still build ServiceNow applications, but what you can do, you can bring so much more to your applications, to your customers, and to your development skills, right? But what does it mean, like modern web development, what that is? And so you may ask yourself. So we're talking about web applications. The stuff that you just run in a web browser. Technically, ServiceNow itself, like as a platform, it's a web application, right? Because it's pretty complex, very sophisticated with multiple server components, but technically it's a web app. It's something that you run in your web browser because you operate with ServiceNow using web browser, right? And when we say modern web development in ServiceNow, that means that we can use such frameworks and libraries like React, Angular, Vue, Svelte, and lots of AI providers. We can use those technologies inside of ServiceNow. You can use those things to build your native ServiceNow applications. And again, why do we care? That's because with those technologies, you can build very sophisticated user interfaces and user experience. So on this slide, you can see just a couple of examples. And at the end of the session, I'll try to show you some demos of what you can do. But basically, there are no limits. There are no limits what you can do in terms of the user experience and interfaces. And the good thing is that you can, there are lots of open source templates, code examples, designs on the internet, right? So technically, you can just copy and paste, and that will bring the stuff into ServiceNow. So that's the beauty of modern web development in ServiceNow. Now we go to technical concept, right? How does it work? And conceptually, right? So conceptually, it's a very simple. So I'll try to simplify some things, and you can see the disclaimer. So I'm simplifying some things. I will be talking about single page applications. I'm not talking about server stuff, but anyway. So consider this. You build your application, and you build your application locally on your machine, right? Your web application, it's basically, I like that GIF, Nick. Your application, it's basically a bunch of text files, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? So that's you on the screen. You build your application locally on your laptop, on your desktop computer, and then you deploy that list of that bunch of files to the server. Now, again, I'm simplifying things here. Server does not care about that code because server does not run that code when it comes to single page applications, right? And you may think about the server like ServiceNow. ServiceNow, basically, that's a server. That code will be sent to the web browser when user wants to interact with your application. So again, it's a very simple three-step process. You build something locally using VS Code, Cursor, Windsurf, any IDE you want, right? Then you deploy that application to the server, and server will serve that code to your user. Now, how does it work in ServiceNow practically? So how exactly you're going to do that? And that's we have on the next slide. Again, very simple. Step number one, again, you build your application locally. Now, you would use probably Vite.js as a bundler. You need to have a specific configuration of that bundler, but at the end, like the result of step number one would be single HTML file. Usually when you create a web application, output of the web application will be multiple files. It might be multiple CSS files, multiple JS files, probably only one single HTML file. But for ServiceNow, to simplify all those things, you can compile everything in one single HTML file with inlined CSS and JavaScript. And that's it. So your application is just one HTML file. Now, then you need to deploy that file to ServiceNow. And the easiest way to do, without any restrictions, anything, you just copy and paste the context of that file into the system property, right? So you create a system property and you just dump that HTML that includes CSS and JavaScript into system property. In the final step, now you need to serve that content to the web browser. So what you do, you just create a very simple custom REST API endpoint in ServiceNow, get endpoint, with literally 4 lines of code. And here you can see on the screen, you can see that code. So on the line number 3, we just read that property. Line number 4, we set content type for the response to text HTML, status 200, and then we send that content back to the web browser. And that's it. That's exactly how I would say 99% of the internet works. You have a get endpoint, the browser, when you type the URL address in the web browser, the browser sends the request to that get endpoint, and the server responds back with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is how you can serve any sort of web applications in ServiceNow. There are some tricks, there are some tiny things you need to be aware of, and you can find that in the GitHub repo. You can see on the screen. So that's a public GitHub repo. That's a template for the React application, and yeah, just go there, copy the code, and you can run it on your machine. So this is the crazy simplicity of web application development on ServiceNow. And by the way, recently, I think like a couple of weeks ago, ServiceNow announced SDK that includes React support. Technically, it works in a very, very similar way. So there is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that is compiled, deployed to ServiceNow, and ServiceNow serves that through REST API endpoint. And this is it. So you may think, okay, that it feels like very simple, straightforward. I mean, what's the what's the trick? Where is the complexity? Honestly, there is no complexity. Once you get this idea of how the web works, right? What is web application? It's very simple and straightforward. Now, the next question you would ask, okay, so we have the web application, we have a beautiful design. How can we access ServiceNow data? How our application can access ServiceNow data? And that's what you do with simple REST API. So again, this is how the entire internet works. You have something in a web browser, and your code that runs in a web browser makes REST API call to, to the server. That's how ServiceNow works. If you go to a service portal page, workspace, like any page in ServiceNow, and when you click the button, what happens there? That page makes REST API call to ServiceNow endpoint. It might be some closed endpoint, proprietary endpoint, but anyway, conceptually, it's the same. So again, very easy and straightforward. Just use REST API in your web application. There are some tricks, again, how to deal with ServiceNow security umbrella. Very simple and straightforward in the development environment. And you'll find all those details in the repo you see, GitHub repo you see on the screen. Two different approaches. When you develop that locally, you use username and password. That's okay because you are in development mode. When it comes to production, you use a session token. You don't touch usernames, you don't touch passwords, but you use the session token and you make REST API. You make REST API calls using that session token to get some data from ServiceNow, to trigger something into ServiceNow, to send something to ServiceNow, and so on. All right, so again, that's a very simple, straightforward concept. And I would say the biggest value of this concept, like hosting your web application this way, is that you automatically inherit ServiceNow security. You don't have to deal with logins, logouts, password checks. No, because you run everything under ServiceNow security umbrella, because ServiceNow becomes your server and you run something from that server, not inside of ServiceNow. Remember, this is a very important concept. When you build your web application and deploy to ServiceNow in this way, ServiceNow has nothing to do with your code, because many people ask, okay, can you break something in ServiceNow? Can ServiceNow get some conflicts with your code? And the answer is no, because ServiceNow itself as a server does not run your code. Right? The only thing that ServiceNow does, ServiceNow just sends that code back to the web browser, user's web browser, and the browser executes the code. Right? Cool. Well, hopefully you got the idea how easy to do modern web development in ServiceNow. And again, just go to that repo and you'll find lots of cool stuff. Now, this session is not just about web development. We also have a notion of artificial intelligence here, right? So now, again, you may ask a question. So, I mean, why we're talking about AI and web development, and where is the connection between those two? Because AI, it's a whole different industry, right, with lots of cool things. And the answer to that question is that actually your web application and web applications in general, they connect in human with AI. Because when you have, let's say, AI model, you have to communicate with that model somehow, right? How would you do that? You do that in most of the 99% of the cases through the web page. That's your web application. So web application is basically an interface to the entire AI industry, right? And once you know how to build web apps, once you know how to run those web apps in ServiceNow, how to deploy them to ServiceNow, how to host them, you can easily connect your application to whatever AI is there outside of ServiceNow, different providers, different services, and all that stuff. So you may want to do something like this. You can build your chat with a simple web application, very simple. You can use different component libraries, styles, AI libraries. There are so many different, pretty nice JavaScript, TypeScript libraries to communicate with AI models. And yeah, you can use those to build your web application, deploy that web application to ServiceNow. So the fact that when you deploy the application into ServiceNow, actually it becomes ServiceNow application. So what do you see on this screen? That's technically ServiceNow app, right? And then you can just do a simple chat directly in ServiceNow. Since there are no limits on web applications, what you can do pretty sophisticated ChatGPT like agent interactions directly in ServiceNow. That could be the part of ServiceNow experience. All right. Now, yeah, so that's basically it. Maximize the screen. How can I, like this? Okay. And again, those are just screenshots. What I want to do, I want to show you live some very exciting things. Again, in practice, what you can do and what you can achieve with the web development in ServiceNow. So let's do some demo. Let me show you something, and it's pretty cool. And first, I want to show you just basic web development stuff. So let me share my screen and let's see. Sharing screen. And all right. So you should be able to see my, can you tell me, hold on. I need to bring to screen. And this, hold on, let's do, all right. So, okay, you can see my screen. Nice. And let me maximize the screen. Perfect. Well, we're looking at the basic ServiceNow instance. Now, let me show you something. And by the way, that's Flare Worksheets application. That's another open source app. You can find it here. It's a public repo. But that's what you can do with ServiceNow. So here you can see like a basic list of ServiceNow records. But in fact, when I click this record, we have Excel-like application, web application directly in ServiceNow, you see? And you can modify the record, you can do some stuff, you can do formulas and lots of different things. This is a nice example what kind of experience you can build with the modern web development technologies directly in ServiceNow. And again, remember, this is just ServiceNow record, and then we have a specific rendering. Let's take a look. So that's the project management example. Let's take a look at the estimate, a little bit different one. So again, that's one of the examples of the experience you can build with modern web development. Let me show you another one. And data space. So another application, pretty custom UI. We go to incidents, and here we have an interactive pivot table. Let's do some things. Assigned to, and what else? Let's do assignment group, and you can do different things. You can, it's fully interactive, and let's do, it's a category, and what else? Let's do channel. So you can imagine, so if you would want to build this sort of the experience with ServiceNow out-of-the-box technologies, maybe, probably you can do something like that. But usually it would be very difficult to build that. But with modern web development technologies, you can just go there, you can search internet, you can pick any library, you can pick any design system, you can pick any templates, and yeah, you can easily then build application, deploy to ServiceNow, and that becomes your ServiceNow app. With this approach, you can also expand the existing ServiceNow application, because you may want to build a very sophisticated dashboards with pretty complex visualizations, and you can do some other things. Now, let me show you what comes to AI, right? Let's go and see. So I have another application, and that's what you've seen on the screen, but here I'm showing you live, right? So custom web application, fully integrated, natively integrated with ServiceNow. It's just AI chat, and let's do something like search and tell me how to do React.js in ServiceNow. And let's see, we have AI agent. The agent has specific tools. The agent executes those tools, and the AI model gives us results. And here you can see there is a cool thing, like the specific tool tab is search. The agent runs that search. We see those results. And by the way, you can see some of the references to my articles, because again, I'm doing that stuff for the last like 7 years probably. Yeah, and here, this is very interesting. We have a reference to ServiceNow SDK. As I mentioned, ServiceNow introduced React support in the latest version of SDK. So just go there, check how that works. Again, conceptually, it's pretty much the same thing. You build something locally, you deploy to ServiceNow, and then ServiceNow simply serve that to the web browser, and everything runs in a web browser. So this code that you can see, right, those AI agents, everything happens in a web browser with API calls to LLM models, right? Power of modern web development in ServiceNow. This is maybe not the coolest part. Let me show you the coolest part. You can also do, well, hopefully you'll hear the audio. So this is the coolest part.
Hey, Andrew. Alex here.
Alex, can you tell me what you know about me?
Okay. Based on the information I have, Andrew, you're Andrew Pischulin, a senior architect in the IT department.
I don't know if you were able to hear that, but we're talking about different type of AI, not simple text-based AI, but we're talking about voice agents, AI voice agents, where instead of text-based LLM model, we have the model that process audio, not just audio, video, images, and all that stuff. And you can easily connect your ServiceNow applications. Like literally, you're looking at the web app with the tiny React widgets that just connect web page and the user to the sophisticated voice-to-voice model, and that could be Google Gemini, OpenAI Real-Time API, and some, or maybe Amazon Nova Soy. So this is one of the coolest things that you can do in ServiceNow, and you can build even the entire voice platforms right in ServiceNow. Right here, you can see this is React application, and that was my session just right now. So that's the power of web development in ServiceNow. Okay, let me bring back this to the screen. And now, so we have, how many minutes I have? 6 minutes, right? I can answer any questions you guys may have. I don't see any specific questions. We have lots of people, I can see. Feel free to go to my LinkedIn profile, connect with me, and let me also, again, go back to the slide, and so you can see the GitHub repo, because that's GitHub repo is the most important, more important than my LinkedIn profile, because, okay, yeah, that's the repo on the bottom of the screen. That could be a starting point. And that repo includes everything, because once you start building your web applications, the first thing you would care would be UI, right? You really want to do nice UI, and you can absolutely do. You can use any component libraries and style design systems like ShadCN, Tailwind CSS. There are so many different examples of the apps and user experiences that you can, again, simply copy and paste into web application. Now, once you're done with UI, the next question you would ask, okay, we want to have multiple pages in our React application. How to do that? That's absolutely doable. You would use React Router. Again, everything you'll find in that GitHub repo, but basically you need to use hash router, because ServiceNow would not support like standard router, but hash router. That's the standard things for web browser. You would use hash router to do multiple pages in your React application. I don't know what else. So I think, yeah, basically that's it. Even still, I have some time. If you guys have any questions, just drop those questions into the chat.
Hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Thank you, Chase. The event is amazing. So almost 400, not 400, almost 500 people. So this is great.
Right. I mean, we have 1,300 registered, but 500 showed up. That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm sneaking into session in the chat. I love that there's all this time. I love this stuff. I think it's so awesome, the content you put out. You opened my eyes to the ability to do modern web dev in ServiceNow like 5 years ago, because I just didn't think it was possible. So I'm so happy to hear you're still beating that drum. And I know ServiceNow is getting there, but if it can be complicated, it is.
Yeah, this is actually very interesting. So even if like the concept of modern web development, it's not new. Again, I introduced that concept like years ago. But when AI comes into the picture, it's kind of like the new wave, because we can easily engage those LLM models. We can build chat, we can build workflows, and and that would become the ServiceNow app. And by the way, guys, I see that some people they're posting about the Medium articles. Those Medium, just keep in mind, those Medium articles, I think the first one was from 2019 or 2018. They're a little bit outdated. So the most recent content, how to do that, like with the explanation of all of the architecture steps, you'll find in that GitHub repo. So just, you don't need the account, even GitHub account, I believe. You just go there, it's a public link, and in the README file, you'll find everything, like the general architecture concept, how that works, how to wire everything. You just copy paste the code, run it locally, and that will give you the ability to get up and running fairly quickly within few minutes, maybe seconds. I don't know. No, I don't think so. That's discussion about UI Builder and what to do with UI Builder. So here, probably we should talk about where React application would work best. For some of the very standard use cases, right? UI Builder and now Experience Framework may work best because, ServiceNow already built lots of workspaces. So for example, for this simple, standard, very standard use case where you already have the workspace, you probably don't want to build everything from scratch. But what you can do, and we do that all the time, you have your ServiceNow workspace configured with UI Builder, and then you can build separate widgets to inject, to be the part of that workspace. Maybe you want to have the custom tab that would allow you to manage like folders structure for your attachments for this specific ticket. Maybe you want to do something else. Maybe on the tab for that workspace, you want to have some very crazy sophisticated dashboard. That's where you would use React, right? So I would say, again, React, we don't want to replace everything with React, no. But what we want to do, we want to expand capabilities of what ServiceNow built, right? And that's where React would play really well. Another use case is, let's say you have something public-facing stuff in ServiceNow, right? It might be the portal, public-facing portal or something like that. You want to do custom UI, right? That's where React would play nice, really nice. Cool. All right. So I think we are out of time. Thank you so much. Yeah, we have quite an audience. Jace, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
And
This wouldn't have been possible without you and without everybody in the audience. So
thank you all.
I'm glad we're all here. I'm going to pop off.
Right. Take care, everyone.